this short video, we are going to demonstrate how to complete a new company setup in the system and also create the company's associated parameters, tables of system-wide codes and default settings. These parameters and codes are important in regard to the subsequent operation of the system and drive such things as currency rates of exchange, price lists, sales analysis reporting, tax collection, inventory management, general ledger chart of accounts and so on. This is generally a one-off exercise, but some of the tables can and will be updated frequently. For example, the currency table will constantly change with new exchange rates, and also the tax table when new rates are introduced. Once the company has been created within the administration layer, we can then log into the company and begin to set up the individual parameters and settings for that company. We would begin by going to Setup on the main menu banner, followed by Company Details and Settings from the drop-down menu. Here we can edit the basic details that were initially entered when the company was first added in the administration layer. These include the standard company information, including the company logo, name, address and contact information, all of which are important for subsequent invoice printing. You can also specify some other basic settings for the daily use of the system, such as price precision, auto-numbering and some other control settings. No matter where you are on the system, in the top right hand corner there is a question mark with Help. These will provide detailed how-to guides that will walk you through every step of the process on how a specific function works. Broadly speaking, there are 3 editions of the software, and here you select and specify the extent of the functionality you want to use. The functional content of each of the 3 editions will have been explained in detail by your accountsIQ manager. And finally, the setup of the company calendar with details of the financial year. In this, we can go to the Codes Maintenance section of the system. As I've mentioned, these are a set of standard codes that are used throughout the system. Some may be of relevance to your company and some may not. Most of these codes will subsequently be used during the day-to-day operation of the system, as in, for example, new supplier setup or customer sales invoice preparation. In the main, they will be presented as default, but can be overridden by another value during the data entry process. A list of the code categories is given on the left-hand side. The first is the nomination of the various area or location codes along with their associated descriptive text, which can then be allocated to each customer and or supplier on his master details record when these records are being set up subsequently. Here we are adding a new area to our existing list of area codes which we had previously set up for use in this company. These are then used to produce sales analysis reports by sales area or by customer within sales area. Under credit terms, you can specify varying terms which determine when a sales or purchase invoice is deemed to be overdue. Note that a credit term code is a mandatory entry during customer and supplier setup, and the number of days that you specify for a credit term is used when determining the age of an invoice for debtor-creditor aging and also for determining the due colour-coded status within supplier-customer account inquiries. Customer groups enable you to classify customers into categories, which can then be used for product pricing purposes and also subsequent sales analysis by customer category. Under delivery routes, you can specify specific delivery transit route requirements for individual customers. Payment methods enable you to set up different forms of payment that will be used for the paying of invoices in the payment process. For example, checks, cash, online payments, electronic fund transfer and so on. Under price categories, we can set up a range of prices per item of product, such as a normal price, staff price, etc. This is an example of where you might want to override the default for the customer. For example, when you want to use the autumn promotion price instead of the normal price. Of course, you can also set the exact price as well when you are inputting a sales or purchase transaction. Price lists can also be maintained for different customers. However, this function, which also involves pricing by volume of product by customer, is more complex and is dealt with separately under the topic of the inventory or product management system. Priority codes can be used to attach a service level requirement to customers and suppliers. The 3 usual priority codes, low, medium and high, are normally set up as part of the standard system implementation. Regions are similar to areas, whereby you can use them to mean anything you like, such as geographical regions, or sales divisions. These are also used for sales analysis reporting purposes. Ship via allows you to set up shipment codes that can be used to associate shipper details with customers and suppliers, and to enter shipper details during transaction entry. And supplier groups enable you to set up groups that can be used to associate specific types of suppliers. Next, we move on to items. The system has a comprehensive stock system for managing your company's products and services. Here we can categorize product items or stock into groups and subgroups for analysis and reporting purposes, and also specify the locations and sublocations of the stocked items, such as warehouses or stockrooms, in which the items are stored. Subgroups might be bin location codes. Of course, if your company is purely service-based and does not require the stock module, you can ignore this altogether. Finally, there are some tables relating to general ledger coding which will be used for the subsequent setup of a chart of accounts and associated financial reporting. At this stage, it's best if I refrain from speaking further about the GL structure and coding in this video, as it has a complete video of its own which you can view later on. Here we can also set up and maintain the currencies used within the system. Once a currency is set up, it can then be assigned to a customer or supplier, so the invoice for that supplier or customer always comes up in that currency. And here you can also set up and subsequently maintain the relevant exchange rates with respect to the base currency of your company, which was established when the company was initially set up. Obviously, this table is updated quite frequently as the exchange rates change from time to time. And now we can take a quick look at the tax table, which contains details of all the various rates of tax, or VAT. Each entry includes the code which is generally assigned to a product item or service, and also the description and the rate of tax chargeable. These tax rates feature heavily in the operation of the sales and purchasing systems, as you would expect, and also in the inventory management system. We then have some options to select, including ECP, which implies the transaction that the tax code is applied to is in an intra-community purchase, and that the system should calculate the VAT amount in the EU acquisition part of the VAT return. Similarly, we can select exempt for a tax code, meaning that we can calculate the tax amount but not include it within the VAT return. The other two options are ECS for intra-community sales and standard, which means the tax rate should be used as the standard rate in cash receipts VAT-based reporting. Finally, we also have the option of setting up the tax code as being a withholding tax, such as the UK CIS scheme for construction workers, and can assign the tax withheld to a control account. The control accounts can be managed under System Accounts, where you can add additional control accounts or edit existing ones. And finally, in concluding this video, we move on to the topic of default settings. These are a short list for each individual system component of some of the default attributes which will be inherited every time a new customer, supplier, product item, etc. is set up and added to the system. I stress that these are defaults and of course can be overridden and changed at the time of the new entry setup. For example, if we look at the new customer defaults, then most of your customers will be using the base currency of the company, the same standard rate of VAT, and so on, but others might well be foreign currency customers and belong to different sales categories and have some different attributes to these suggested defaults. The same then applies to suppliers, products and other items.